Good afternoon, everyone. Please, can we have our seats? Thank you so much for making our time to reform. And SDJ, I want to say a very big thank you for honoring this invitation. Mr. Olajumoke, weird calling you that. Switch. Thank you so much for honoring the invitation, and thank you so much for to you both for pouring out your heart to us today. So, quickly going into the panel session, we were thinking we were going to do 30 minutes before, but SDJ's heart towards us is really, really large today. So we'll be taking three live questions, and if you are shy and you are camera shy, you are people shy, you can write down your question, and we want it to come from your heart. So I'll be inviting up, ladies first, SDJ to come up stage. She talked about the sages. She's also a sage. A sage is a person that, anything they say is wisdom. Anything they say, as they are dropping, even if they say is, it is wisdom. I also want to invite up Switch, Mr. Olajumoke, up stage. Okay, so we go straight into the panel session. Ushers, please help collect the questions. But the community of ideas came up with some questions as well. And I know that the both of you have spoken on ideas, and how to, bring them to fruition and even think or conceptualize in the first place. So the first question is quite simple, and it goes to SDJ. I know that SDJ is going to make this question very complex. The answer she's going to give will be very complex, but I trust her. I trust her to break it down for us. So first of all, is there really anything new? Is there really, we saw the first video, you were not here yet at that time, and the person talked about how we limit ourselves, and we feel like there is nothing new. Even the Bible says it, that there is nothing new under the sun. So is there really anything new? Is there really any idea that we can conceive that is new, that nobody has ever thought of or done before?
It's possible to conceive ideas that nobody has ever done before, but it is hard to say that nobody has ever thought of before. And the reason is because thoughts, they don't have boundaries as much as possible. And I might have been thinking about it, but thinking about it in line with the floor, and you're thinking about it, and you're thinking about it in line with the speaker. So it might not be totally new when it comes to the realm of thought, but it might be new when it comes to the realm of execution. But I believe that there are new things. And I believe there are new things because I am a child of God. And the Bible says, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard it, neither has it entered into the heart of man the thoughts that God has. So the realm of the new is not my own thoughts, it's the realm of God. So if I step into the realm of God, there is the new.
That I don't always want to use this word because it's like I'm copying somebody, but that was profound. That was profound. I said it that SDJ is a sage. So you are saying that ideas flow from God. New flows from God. So my thoughts and your thoughts might be the same thing, but execution might be different. So you might be thinking of painting these tiles green, and I might be thinking of pulling it out and painting the floor beneath the tiles green. So execution is what you're saying that might be different. Even the ideas would be different, and it can be new, and it flows from God.
Yeah, so I want to balance that.
Okay.
The two sides of what you're saying is that I talked about the newness in the realm of the thought of man, which might not be new in the thought of man, but the execution from the realm of the thought of man can be new, which is what describes, you might be thinking pulling out the tiles and painting the floor. I'm thinking, let's paint the tiles. The fact is, our idea is get this floor looking better. Yeah. But the second side of the answer that I gave is now the new, the absolutely new, now exists in the realm of God. So yes, I'm able to ascend into that hill to pull down the new that nobody has ever seen. So in that case, it's not about the execution, it's about the fact that it is new.
Interesting. I think I'm going too deep so that you will not throw me away. So let's just continue. So this question goes to Mr. Olajumoke and Switch. So after conceiving an idea, after receiving something new, great or small, we know that sometimes idea might seem foolish, and foolish people can conceive ideas as well. Like she mentioned, you can be sitting in the company of the great, and then the next day, I'm sorry to say this, but it has happened to us before. We had an idea, a very great idea, but it was like maybe we slept on it, and next year we saw it. It was a very big thing. So at what point do you launch that idea? At what point do you launch that seemingly silly, foolish, or great idea? At what point?
There's no right time to launch. There's a saying that if all the conditions are perfect, right, you've launched too late. Right? If, and I'm sure that has also happened to us, right? So you want to move out, or you want to, let's say, start the masters, right? And you feel that until I gather, or even want to build a house, until I gather all the financial resource required to build that house is when I should start. You probably not start. So all conditions cannot be perfect, right? There's I talked about timing, if you remember the presentation, right? And I talked about a little bit about spirituality. Knowing when to launch, right, is necessary. Because the moment you take the first step, you might not even see the end of the tunnel, but taking the first steps, resources will begin to come in. So there's really no right time to launch. It's a little bit of intuition and a little bit of direction from, in our own case, God.
Our advantage, right? So as believers, we have an advantage. We know when to launch, how to launch, and who to give it to. Okay. Thank you so much for that. I don't know if we have our questions ready. Do we have any question? Please, can you bring the papers? And if you have any question, I don't know if we can pass a mic to someone. Can you raise your hand if you have a question to ask? If you have a question to ask, please, can you raise your hand? Can you signify by raising your hand? So we have someone at the back there. Can we pass the mic to the person at the back? Thank you.
Do I need to come forward? Oh, I should just talk.
You can ask your question.
Okay. Good afternoon, Ma and Sir. Okay. My question is, you have an idea, but it is not in your line of work. You don't have so much about it. Like, let me give one of the ideas I have. I discovered that talking to children and teenagers, even at our age, our agriculture is going into extinct. Even the teacher that are teaching agric in school I've not even seen where a rice is even planted. So some of the children are missing it up. So my idea was to have something like I don't know how to call it, but a place where there's a representation of every fruit, every plant, everything in that same garden, where there is botanical name, there's history of it. I sold the idea to someone and he started it, but my point is, if you don't have resources, you don't have so much. I didn't study Greek. I don't have so much knowledge about that. How do you go about it? Who do you meet? You're not. I wish I can put it in another way, but that's all I actually meant. Thank you.
Okay. SDJ, can you? Oh, do you want to answer the question?
This is typical if you're not a subject matter expert, right? First of all, I would say you have to have a little bit of background understanding of the problem you're trying to solve, right? So, for example, my background is in tech, but for some reason, I find myself doing things even medical, right? Medical students are required to do, right? How do I go about? So, I'll give you an example, practical example. I was to, first of all, in fact, two examples. One, gas cooking, LPG gas, right? And two, ARI, right? Acute respiratory infection. My background is in computing. How do I begin to understand all of these things? First, you have to be an embodiment of knowledge. Second of all, you cannot know everything. And that's where partnerships, or in startup case, we talk of co-founders, right? You reach out to someone you trust. First of all, looking at alignment of values, which is there's some sort of connection. Second of all, perhaps someone who connects to your mission, right? And thirdly is a subject matter expert in that area of things, right? And work with that person. So when we talk of co-founders within the tech space, some people will have an idea. They are financial experts, right? And you know we're talking of mobile apps. You need a developer, right? The co-founder or the CTO is a technical person, right? The combination of those two will result into that idea or that product itself in this case. So bottom line, partner with someone who has perhaps who's a subject matter expert in that regard, but ensure that you have that alignment in terms of values first, and that will go a very long way.
Yes, did you have something?
All right. Thank you very much. I actually knew you had that answer that way. So I said you should answer it. But the other part that I want to talk about is that most of the time we have ideas in our minds and we want to put it down the way it is in our minds. So back to what he said earlier, if everything is perfect, you have the garden, you have all the plants you need, you have all the botanical names, everything is good, then you just started too late. Do you have one plant? Have you planted maize, only maize, so that it's the season of maize and these children can come interact with maize? And then when it's now yam season, you now add yam to it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Most of the time, we want it full blown. The level that you're describing is a level where everything is now perfect and we have all of it in one space. But we need to grow into that. Sometimes also, until you begin something, you don't get the right set of people get attracted to it because it just looks too far-fetched. But when you come and say, I just need a flower pot, one person can give a flower pot. Another person can say, oh, don't worry, I have this pumping machine I'm not using. I'm just going to pull it over to you and then we can use it to irrigate the little farm you have. And it builds on that way. So sometimes it's not also only about calling in the right set of people, which you certainly need, like he has said. Sometimes you just need to get the idea from them and go and execute, because it's not every time they are coming in as co-founders or people who will want to join you to run that idea. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is, do you have that desire inside of you because there is a larger solution you're seeking to provide? You are beginning to limit the expression of the idea into agriculture. You need to watch that. All right.
Thank you so much, Switch and SDJ. I'm already calling you Switch. I'm sorry. His name is Mr. Olumide Inka, but he's also known as Switch. So I'll read one of the questions that we have here, and I think this is directed at you, SDJ. On personality, when it comes to, in quote, the unlimitedness of an idea, depending on the mind of whom the idea resides, as you rightly said, what best approach can be used to better one's personality? So I think this person is talking about transformation or something. Yeah.
To say that better one's personality, it sounds like a fantastic question, but I want to quickly stop that individual in his or her track. There is no personality that is better than another personality. So when we're talking of this personality difference thing, it's not equal to change your personality. It's equal to become a better version of who you are. Because who you are is what the world needs. We just need you in a better version. We need you in an upgraded version. We need, maybe currently you are 1.2, we need a 1.2.1 version of you, and we don't expect you to remain that way. So that's why we also seem to be very demanding. So we know you have come from left all the way to the middle, and you see us still shouting that you should go all the way to the right, is because the more of you we see, the more of you we like, and the more of you we want to see. And so it seems like there's always an endless demand of be better than who you were yesterday. So this, in quote, comparison or competition is not between personality A and personality B, it's between the person you were yesterday and the person you are today and the person you will be tomorrow. So now to the question, how do you better your personality? Number one, you need high sense of awareness. What do you like? What don't you like? What can you do? What can't you do? You know, it was mentioning the other time that when talking about co-founders and startups, it's because somebody can identify that somebody has another skill that is required in that particular business. So what skill do you have? If you're to stand here and we say, talk about yourself, what are you going to say? In most of the time, many of us are limited in the vocabulary to describe ourselves, our wants, our desires. If I ask you, what do you really want? Most people will pause and wonder, what do I really want? And you are with yourself every day, and you cannot even answer that simple question to yourself. You know, why are you doing the things that you do? Why are you making the decisions that you make? Why do you even believe in God? I mean, these are questions that could come to us from other people that we are not the one asking ourselves. And permit me to say, I am big on personal development. Development is great, but personal development is greater. That's how I say it. Because it is stirred up by you, powered by you, directed by you. I mean, why are you not the director of your life? Why are you not the founder, the co-founder, the CTO of your life? And this shows that you are constantly seeking to know yourself, constantly seeking to understand your emotions, constantly seeking to see your knowledge gap, constantly seeking to fill the knowledge gap, constantly keeping yourself in the company of people that are, affirming the good you and helping the not so good part of you be better. It's a continuous thing. So that question is not to say, I will just give you 1-2 steps and you are there. It is just make sure you wake up one day and you don't sleep the same version. That's the easiest way to do it. Just try. If you're about to sleep and you're like, what else? Have I added anything and there's nothing? Get up and pray. Speak in tongues for 30 seconds. Something. Add something to your spirit. Don't just remain the same. And that would make you keep getting more inclined to being the person to execute the idea. It would also open your mind more to variety of ideas that would normally not have come into your mind.
Wow. Thank you so much, SDJ. Thank you so much. And I hope she has answered your question. Mr. Olumide, this person says, not all problem needs to be solved, like you said, which they clearly understand as it might wear them out. However, can you explain better on the statement, not all problem needs to be solved? How do you pick the right problem to solve without trying to solve several of them?
So that's a very deep question. So the statement itself, not all problem needs to be solved, could be looked at from the first. Let's look at it from the angle of focus, right, as a business. And two, we could also look at it from the angle of profitability, right? From a business standpoint. So the reason why I'm saying my own focal point, I'm saying it from a business startup standpoint. So what is the problem Uber is solving? Uber is solving the problem of, or Taxify is solving the problem of commuting people from point A to point B, right? What was the problem? Go-Karda, the previous Go-Karda, like before the regulation ban, what problem were they solving? Huh? Faster what? Commute itself. They are both commuting people from point A to point B and solving that same problem. But what makes one different from the other? Comfort, well, I'll say focus, right? One is focused on comfort, the other is focused on what? Speed, right? And less focused on what? Comfort itself, right? So that's not all problems. How about Uber said, okay, we're solving the problem of movement from point A to point B. They started with what? And decided to focus on making use of vehicles itself. And at no point have you seen that Uber is saying they can expand later, but at no point have they decided to move from what do you call it, cars to now motorcycle, right? Because of their mission is to move you from point A to point B, what? In the most comfortable way. From a business standpoint, I'm trying as much as possible to not be too technical, right? When you're talking of total addressable market size, right? If a business is not sustainable, right, there are a number of factors that come into play. And one factor could be perhaps there are not so many people that are facing that problem. So that's when we talk of total addressable market. I said I'm trying as much as possible. With that question, I don't know if SDJ can. It's so technical. I'll be so deep that I'm trying as much as possible not to be so technical. So a good example can be, okay, I want to do Uber for camp, but the market is small, right? Do I think I'll be able to run a sustainable business doing Uber for camp? School of thought, right? However, if I decide to say I'm doing Uber for the whole of Ogun State, do I think that will be more profitable? Am I confusing people? Or, I just want to be sure because everybody is squeezing face. So when we say not all problems need to be solved, is a case of identifying bigger problems, right, that are first desirable, viable as a business, and technically feasible itself. Yeah.
Thank you, Switch. So I don't know if that material that you shared with us can be available for. Okay, so the person that asked that question, you can get his slide at the end of the program. Do you have something to say? Okay, please do.
Okay, so he has answered from a businessman point of view. And I am not exactly a businesswoman. I am more of a social entrepreneur than a business person. You know the difference? When he wants to consider the business to invest in, or whether invest doesn't always have to be money, it's time, it's resources, it's person, he would consider how much profit it is able to yield. But as a social entrepreneur, I am looking at what change is this idea going to cause in the society. Then because I'm not running an NGO, I'm now not saying, oh, we just want to sweep all the gutter in Redemption Camp and everybody will go home. I'm saying, so when we finish sweeping the gutter, who can possibly pay the people who sweep the gutter. We might not be asking for premium that the cleaning agencies in Lagos will ask for, but this might be a sustainable way to keep 5 young boys out of begging on the streets. And so for that reason, or maybe I'm thinking, I gather people like this in Community of Ideas. I'm like, I know you guys make a whole lot of money and you don't like seeing that dirty gutter. So how about you give 10 naira every month, so that we will sort out the logistics of how the gutter is going to be cleaned. So in your mind, you're okay with 10 naira every month, not seeing a dirty gutter, 10 naira every month to prevent you from getting malaria. But for me, I'm thinking the society will be cleaner. I'm thinking the environment is better. I'm thinking 5 young boys will be able to have dinner. So at the end of the day, it's sustainable, but it's not necessarily profitable. That's how a social entrepreneur thinks. So when he says not all problems need to be solved, as a social entrepreneur, I am like, all problems, well, can be solved. You might not be the person to solve all problems, but everybody can solve the problem. For example, we hear about research and Bill Gates dropping money and all of that. He's trying to solve the problem of malaria in Africa. It's not because he has other avenues he's making all this money from. He knows some other ways by which he's enriching himself as a businessman. But that amount of money that is dropping for the malaria is looking at it from a general social good kind of thing. Let's ignore whether there are undercover intentions there or not. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when I mentioned earlier that I don't know what NGOs are doing, when we're talking about an NGO, most of it comes from charity-based giving. And your charity-based giving, many of the times, people are looking to pay themselves, be comfortable living on what other people have given to charity. That's wrong. But I think that many of us have a mind to change the world, but we don't want to be poor changing the world. So I think that if that is who you are underneath your core thinking, then you might want to study more about social entrepreneurship and find out how you can run business models that businesses will run and run it in your social enterprise, make minimal profit, or make a lot of profits from some people and divert the funds to the change that you want to see. But that's how to think about it. So maybe you are also concerned that he says you should not solve all problems. So don't worry. You can solve all problems. The question is it sustainable? Are you going to be able to do it? Am I going to gather all of us here, collect our 10 nairas, and the gutter is clean, and next month is dirty again, and I say, oh, yeah, come, let's give me another 10. I'm not going to give you another 10 naira. I'm going to be expecting you to have a sustainable way to keep the gutter clean. And that's where social entrepreneurship comes in.
Thank you so much, SDJ. Thank you so much, Switch. So we have 3 questions to go. And let me ask this first. This person says, why are people slow? The person used implement, but I feel like the person wants to use execute. So why are people slow to execute ideas? SDJ, you want to speak first?
I think that he has kind of answered this question a bit in the first question that he answered, where he talked about you wanting everything to be perfect. Many other times as well, the moment we hear resources or investment, we're always thinking money. Money is not everything. I don't even believe money runs ideas. Because if you throw money at ideas, they just remain ideas that have money running all around them. There needs to be thinking. How do we? And that is where I feel people get tired of doing stuff. I think it comes from a point of intellectual laziness. He was talking about brainstorming, and then he talked about the fact that, there are no foolish ideas. You might look at them and, okay, maybe they are not within the reach, within the context. But I feel that many of us don't want to think beyond a certain point. You just, like she has thought about it, oh, let's just have this farm. I've thought about it. So somebody else should be in the sun cultivating the land. Somebody else should be the person going to buy the seedlings in Abeokuta. Me, I am the one that got the idea. I can just sit down here in AC. That's not how things work. When you have an idea, you should be willing to work it. And when I say work it, I mean work it with your own blood and sweat. Physically work it. I mean, go everywhere you can go. Deny yourself lunch for 2 days so that you can enter Uber to Banana Island and go and make a pitch that doesn't make you feel like you're an hungry guy. I mean, those kind of thinking, people don't think like that. Because if you're also coming to pitch to me and then your shoes are dusty, your lips are dry, I'm going to feel like, drop money for this one. You know, that kind of thing. But invest a little in a good shoe. Clean it very well on that morning that you are going. If you have to put like a rag in your pocket so that you can clean it when you get to their doorstep, chill out somewhere, enter a bank that is close to the place so that you can enjoy their AC and you are not, and all of this is I'm talking about. I'm not spoken about money. But how am I going to present myself in this situation that I'm not going to look desperate? I know I have a lot of things in my head, but I'm the only one that knows. So when you present yourself to some, and many of us, in this community, you believe they should be able to recognize I'm a Christian. Hello. We won't go there today. Because to be honest, that is just an excuse for us to do shoddy job. You have an idea, you are praying on it. Fantastic. Pray more. A little more, please. I have 5:30 prayer today. We can join you. But are you going to get up and write a business plan? You don't know what a business plan is like. Google it. You have a phone. Get templates. They'll ask you questions. Fill it in. Call someone. It doesn't have to be somebody you will now be looking for Daddy Geo to help you check. Are you kidding? You have people around you who are closer to you, who can check things for you. You are looking for the best. I mentioned earlier that what your pastor has been teaching you for 6 years, one guest minister comes, you now see the queue outside the door. Guest minister, people want to pray. Are we playing? I'm getting upset. But this is how we think about our ideas. So you have a sibling who studied business administration. You are in somebody's DM on Instagram asking them if they can check your proposal. Is this a joke? You have a brother. And if you can now not believe in your brother enough to read your proposal and give you a good idea, then why should that person on Instagram believe that you have anything to offer? And why should your own brother believe that that business is viable if you cannot let him look into it and criticize it from a family point of view, which is important? And I'm saying all of these things together. It looks like I'm not giving you steps to running your idea, but I'm telling you the reasons why our ideas don't run is that we overlook the resources we have around us and we start looking for resources that are beyond our reach. And at the end of the day, nothing moves. Now, ask question. They say she ask question. You're like, right? Tomorrow, look for him. Let him answer the question for you. He will not send you invoice. He will say he's sending you invoice. But that's it. We have opportunities we don't use. That's what happens. Let me just stop. Let's go on to the next.
Thank you so much, SDJ. So, an opportunity is the community of ideas. Actually, if you are thinking of someone to run to, you can run to us. I just used the opportunity to.
And we send invoice.
Okay, second to the last question. I want us to just help this person because I think this question is really something. So, I'm a type of person that gets a lot of ideas. It's very easy for me to solve problems for other people, make decisions for them too, but it's difficult for me to do so for myself. What area of life or career should I focus on? Or what steps should I take?
Okay. So the last part is what area of life should I focus on? Okay. So earlier on I talked about the concept called Ikigai, right? So identifying, what the world needs, what skills you currently have. Just check it out, what you're passionate about, and there's one quadrant I can't remember. But it's a Japanese concept, finding your true purpose, right? called Ikigai that you can use, the framework you can use. And from what she read, I feel that the person is perhaps too hard on his or herself, right? The reality is, because you say you make decisions for others, perhaps you feel taking up the first step, you have that inability to take risks. Perhaps you make good decisions for others because of you feel that there's really no impact on whatever bad decision you make for them directly on you. So you are super, super careful that, if I take this step, I'm not willing to take that risk. Life is all about risk. You go out every day. Life, driving on Lagos Ibadan Expressway is a risk. Right? So what I would say is, in order to, you should start thinking about how can you minimize risk or minimize the impact of whatever bad decisions you're going to make. So for example, that's where the concept of MVP is going to come about, right? So basically, if you're thinking of having a farmland, right, how about you start from the back of your house, right? Think of smaller ways you can use to validate your concerns or assumptions, right? Perhaps cheaper ways you can equally use to as opposed to validate your assumptions, right? And establish some sort of, I'm avoiding technical words, some sort of validation, right? Or product market fit before you now spend all the whole money. I think that's what I would say.
Thank you. I want you to spell that thing you said, Hikigai.
Kigai, Ikigai is a Japanese concept.
Okay, so you actually answered a question from here while you were talking.
Okay.
I didn't read out the question, so I hope the person that wrote that question is satisfied with the answer. So our last question, and it's to you both. And I know that we have a very profound response to this question. So what is that force? What is that force you think can push an individual into an innovative break? The force that can cause an eruption of ideas in your heart, and you're like 1,000% sure that if I run with this idea will not run me down. So what is that force?
Hunger. Well, it might sound like a joke, right? But that's one, so let me now be serious. So first, it also depends on what the individual wants to accomplish in life, right? So for some people, they get motivated by different, and money is never, well, some people get motivated by money anyway, right? For some people, it's about legacy. For some people, it's about impact, right? So I would say, what's that driving force? Yeah, I think I've answered. That's what I can think of right now. Something that connects to your inner desires, right? And that's why you see most of the successful companies that we see today are usually, oftentimes, from the personal problem they faced. Oftentimes, right? Because it connects to something deeper. And it's beyond because running a business is hard, trust me. Like, there'll be problems you encounter, employer mindset, when you're thinking of bills to pay, you're thinking of, so it's going to be challenging. And what you need at the end of the day is that desire or that passion is what is going to come to play to make you run when you are, but in Yoruba they say baby batik by innovation.
Thank you so much, Switch. SDJ, do you have something to say?
I don't think that I have something different to say. And I won't primarily say hunger because there are so many hungry people that are still. And then you are not hungry, but you are the one feeling their hunger. and they are still not thinking. So in that kind of situation, I don't know. But there's something that I feel like if you have suffered in life, and I think suffering is more than I think suffering is more than hunger sometimes, you know. When this can just happen to you that you sit down and be like, is this life? Like, now maybe this, you know, that kind of thing. And even though it looks like selfish motivation, what can sustain that is when that passion consumes you in such a way that it's not only on you. How do I say it? Like if I'm hungry and I work because I'm hungry, then when I am filled, I might not work anymore. But if I can allow that hunger to rise beyond just my momentary hunger, then I can have a continuous motivation to continue to push and do that effort that will make sure that that thing is sustained. Because most of the time, I have people who would ask me, what exactly am I looking for? Like, why am I working so hard? Why am I running around? I mean, and why do I do the things that I do? And for me, it comes from that point where I have never felt that I have arrived. I have never felt that I know. I've never felt that I like still coming here today. I'm like, I still said when I go here, like, what on earth do I have to say for 45 minutes, really? But I'm not that person who would also talk down on myself. So I want us to find the balance, because the moment you get to that, I'm satisfied, I'm okay. I have 50 million naira. My father never had 5. So why am I shouting? The moment you get there, you lose that bite to get up and create new. And this is, like you said too, this is not to say money is the motivation. Why are you looking for that money? Because if you're looking for money for a higher purpose, then 50 million naira will not be enough. Because there's a higher purpose. So as long as children are still dying of malaria in Africa, for example, and back to Bill Gates is still working so that there's money to send down for research. Do you understand? So if it's about what he will eat, what he will drink, the house he will live, it can as well stop working now and start spending until the end of his life, and his money won't finish. So you also need to look for a higher purpose for that hunger, higher purpose for that desire. You want to leave a legacy. What kind of legacy? Because don't be surprised. You can leave a legacy at 25. It's not, legacy is not you are now 92 and you are dead. If all you want to do in life is for people to feel like, oh, he's a great guy. The moment everybody in Moses' apartment feel like you're a great guy, your legacy is won. There's no argument. And the moment that happens, you are no more thinking the people who live in Estate 11 don't think I'm great. Now, do you understand the stretch I'm talking about? But if you are now like, I want everybody in the world, and maybe you need to sit down and study vision statements of companies. You find out that their mission statement, people achieve their mission statement continually. Like, you can even change your mission statement after 5 years and say, no, this is too small a mission for us. This one, we've done it like 1 billion times. Can we move to higher things? But your vision statement, you should never achieve your vision statement. You should never. If you achieve your vision statement, it's not your vision statement. Because for every time you sleep and wake up, you should look at that vision statement and say, we have not gotten there. Even though you just got down from the global stage, they just gave you this award. In your mind, they're still like, I want to thank my father, thank my mother. You've watched all of those things now. And then the next year, they are still doing the song, doing sleepless nights in the studio and still bringing out a better song. Why are they doing that? Because the purpose is a higher purpose, much more than money, much more than fame. And I don't know what that is for you. And that was what he was trying to describe. So find it. When you find it, you're never going to stop.
Wow. Wow. Words are just popping up in my head like this light bulb. Words are just popping up. And I think that what you have both done for us today is to untwist our minds. You have broken that barrier that we placed on our minds. And I hope this is the same story for every other person sitting here. And I just want to remind us of a statement that SDJ made. She said, you cannot solve other people's problems when you haven't been able to solve yours. So I think we at the Community of Ideas have been able to solve the boundaries of the mind, the boundaries, the limitations that we put on our minds. And I think that we've been able to help you recalibrate today. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for asking your questions. SDJ and Switch, I think you've done a great job. Thank you very much, Ma and Sir.